All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Give me a touch on the top prop bets for the Monday night games in the NBA. So I am recording this at like noon on Sunday, so we'll see. The amount of prop bets that we have might be limited, but I'm going to do the game by game breakdown like I typically, starting with Washington versus the Philadelphia 76ers. This is a 12-point spread, so chances are this game could potentially be a blowout, but it is a high-scoring game. Looking at the injury report, we do need to get an update on kind of the guards here. If all these guards are out, Landry Shamet, Rollins, DeLon Wright, Johnny Davis, I do think Tyus Jones is someone that we could be looking at to have a good game. And we're also going to see Embiid is going to be a game time decision there as well. And so we look at it kind of from the injury standpoint. Embiid is truly a game time decision, as are the other players. So again, for Washington, if all those guards sit, I think that's going to lead to Tyus Jones getting more minutes. And this would be a decent matchup for him. You look at the last game against Brooklyn, that was definitely a blowout, but he got a little bit more run than he typically would in a blowout, about 2 or so extra minutes, which can really be the difference. So all in all with Washington, I think the approach to go with is if you like one bet for the over, you probably want to attach it to some other bets that are also going to have the over as well. We'll see if we're getting any good prop bets for Washington. And as it sits right now, not really. We do see Kyle Kuzma for over rebounds and assists at 10.5. That one's okay. Really, everyone would get a bump in their production and really for the game as a whole if Embiid is out. So like someone like Kuzma, where we see the rebounds and assists is one that's popping up, I could get behind that if Embiid's out. And so we do have a maybe potential edge by game scripting Embiid to be out. And part of the reason as to why Embiid could sit is literally the match with Washington, where it's kind of an easier match. This is interesting when looking at it against PrizePicks versus Underdog. Right now, Kyle Kuzma at 5.5 rebounds is a decent bet. We can see on the season does average 5.8. Again, if that game stays close enough for long enough, if Embiid's out, he should be able to get there pretty easily. So maybe a potential to gain an edge there on Underdog. And I'm using Underdog because they have more prop bets available throughout the day start than does PrizePicks. So another one that's kind of decent right now, Jordan Poole for over points and rebounds at 19.5. We can see PrizePicks has it set at 20.5. We can see the average sportsbook line also has it set at 20.5. It is being favored for the under, so that's probably why Underdog has it at 19.5, but maybe a slight edge there. All in all, not too many great prop bets for Washington. So let's go ahead and move on into Philly. For Philly, we are getting some of our best bets right now with Melton for rebounds and assists at over 7.5, at least on Underdog. Melton is definitely an interesting player because his minutes have been something that we really cannot count on. Now, he does get a great matchup going against Washington. Last game, he did play 34 minutes, and I do think that with Kelly Oubre still kind of being limited minutes-wise, we might still get some run out of Melton, but regardless, if he's going to get around 30 minutes or so, and I do want to call out that, guys, the data, the projection data and whatnot, that will update tomorrow. It's not going to be there right now. And so we can't see like his projected minutes. But all in all, rebounds and assists at 7.5 is seemingly going to be appealing, especially when you look at his averages. We can see the last game against Washington was a higher scoring game, only played 27 minutes in that game, still was able to get his over rebounds and assists by a decent margin there. So yeah, that is probably the best bet that we are currently going to get. Batum, I don't really care for, but that's basically a push at 7.5. So to get at 7, slight edge there. The projection data does kind of like it. Looking at Embiid for over assists, probably not one I want to chase. And then from there, it's going to be a little bit tight in terms of which prop bets we are getting. Maybe a slight edge here where the over is being favored at 34 for points and assists for Maxey. Underdog currently has it set at 33.5. Then real quick, we'll just take a peek at both of them on PrizePicks. Both teams, yeah, not really a big edge there. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on into the next game. The next game, we got the Cavaliers versus the Magic. Kind of a lower scoring game at 225.5 or so. Close game though. Looking at the injury report that we have, very crucial. This injury report, it really is. So Wendell Carter could be back. Jonathan Isaac could be back. What would that mean for Goga? Tough to say, especially going against Cleveland. Minutes would most likely be down for sure. And then looking at the guards, Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, both currently game time decisions as well. If they both play, Cole Anthony is going to be very difficult to get to. And then also, if they both sit, Cole Anthony is probably going to be very easy to get to. And then looking at it from Cleveland, Mobley currently a game time decision. Obviously, if he sits, that's going to give a bump to Allen. LeVert being out does help the usage for both Garland and Mitchell. And I am curious taking a peek at it. Like they currently have Mobley as a true game time decision, as they do for the rest of the Magic players as well. So tough to get a very good read on that. What was kind of funny though, for the Magic game with those two players off the court. Cole Anthony was someone that I wanted to chase production wise, which was correct, but he only got 24 minutes in that game because it was a blowout. Now we look at the last game against Cleveland. He also had a good game. And so that is something that I would probably bank on again, if those two players are out. But right now for that game, because we don't have that information, they are not giving us those props. Again, it makes sense, but Cole Anthony would be the biggest bump in terms of production play that I'd want to be on. And then also it makes sense why we're not getting any Cleveland props. All in all, given the matchup with the Magic, it's kind of weird to say, but I don't know if I want to really trust any of the prop bets that we might get for Cleveland unless we have a really good evening. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game. Looking at the next game, a very high game total between the Pacers and the Pistons. 7-point spread, but 247.5 is going to be the over and under. My question is, are we actually going to see everyone play for the Pacers? Obviously coming in off of that play-in tournament, one day of rest, lots of travel, just kind of a weird spot. Looking at the Pistons side of it, we do know that Jalen Duren's gonna be out and Marvin Bagley currently a game time decision. If those two players sit, that's gonna mean that Isaiah Stewart's gonna get a lot of minutes. Thompson, someone that could get some run as well, but we're gonna see James Wiseman gets. If just Jalen Duren sits, I think we can expect Isaiah Stewart to just be locked into. Also find it kind of strange that we're not getting any Pacers prop. It probably would mean that we wouldn't want to be on Malik Beasley as much as we have been. Jay Crowder is still out. We are seeing Zach LaVine out. Alex Caruso, a game time decision. So we have kind of come to know that the two players that benefit the most with LaVine out are actually Kobe White and Patrick Williams. We'll see if that still holds up in this game. So yeah, right now we are getting some Chicago Bulls props, so let's take a peek at that. And right now, Kobe White over 3.5 rebounds is a decent prop bet with about a 53% chance to hit. To me, probably not one I want to chase, but we will take a peek at the production that Kobe White has had recently, because he truly has been going off and he does get a good matchup. The minutes have been really what has been crazy, guys. Heavy minutes, and if that occurs again, especially if Caruso's out, that's really going to help him. Now, in the last game, Caruso was active, only played 18 minutes. That doesn't really change too much in terms of like Kobe White's production and usage. To me, it just makes him a little bit more of a safe option. Now, I will say on Underdog, I wonder if it's still there. They probably bumped it down. One of the best prop bets that we were getting was Kobe White for under, I think it was assists at 5.5. So they have since adjusted that. That makes sense. But we look at his production or just the Chicago Bulls production with Zach LaVine off the court. DeMar DeRozan has been stepping up into a better role recently. At the start of the season, he wasn't getting a big bump. That could have just been matchup based. So let's just talk about the production for really the few players that do benefit the most. We'll start with Kobe White. Kobe White sees about a 7-point bump per 36 with Zach LaVine off the court. And again, 36 minutes might be a little bit too low for him. Averages about 2 more rebounds per 36 as well. So that number goes up. An assist don't get a big bump, only 1.4 in bump in assists. I mean, that's not terrible, right? Usage goes up 2.7%. So all in all, he is someone that has been playing well, gets a good matchup. I can get behind. Let's talk about DeMar DeRozan as well. We did see maybe rebounds and assists as one we could potentially bet. The minutes will probably be heavy for him as well, especially if the game stays close. His per 36 production is 4.6 rebounds, 6.5 assists. And so we look at this number, that is seemingly slightly too low. Should probably be at 11. Now, all in all, if he gets a little bit more run than 36 minutes, then probably should be a little bit higher than that. So with the game being the potential to be a blowout, I do worry about Kobe White and also DeMar DeRozan getting 36 plus minutes, but they should be locked in to get around 30. All in all, though, that's probably the best bets that I see we're getting for them. So let's go ahead and take a peek at, I actually don't mind Patrick Williams for over 4.5 rebounds as well, guys, but all in all, let's move on into the Bucks. So for the Bucks, let's just point this out. Malik Beasley, 3.5 threes. The under is being favorited there. That is definitely a fascinating line right there. Again, especially if Pat Connaughton's been back, because you give Pat Connaughton maybe 20 or so minutes in this game, that's going to mean someone is going to lose minutes. And we have seen that has kind of led to, well, Marjan Beauchamp really getting kind of phased out, but Malik Beasley probably not going to get the 36 or so minutes that he had been getting. I mean, he had been getting heavy minutes and for the most part had been shooting the basketball well from 3-ball range. I would almost, there's a few key shots in the game for that, the Pacers playing game, or sorry, the in-season tournament game where Beasley hits an open 3, the Bucks probably win it. It's kind of like a turning point. Against the Bulls, the last time these two teams played, he had 15 3-ball attempts. I'm not expecting that again. And so all in all, I probably do agree with the under 3.5 threes. Overall, though, the points, rebounds, and assists at 18.5 probably is a little bit too low, given the fact that his 3-balls made is at 3.5. I mean, that's 9 points right there. He'd be halfway there on just threes made. Again, though, this is going to be predicated on Pat Connaughton sitting. If Pat Connaughton's active, that's really going to hurt this prop bet hitting or not. I do want to call it an interesting line that we have here for Brook Lopez. The data is favoring the over at 12.5. The average sportsbook line is actually giving us about 12.7 and still favoring the over about 52% chance for that one to hit. Projection data likes Brook Lopez to get 13 points. So at 12.5 on Underdog, we are seemingly getting a good edge. We can see the line on PrizePicks is actually set at 13.5. So maybe a slight edge there for Brook Lopez. And Brook is someone that has been playing some heavy minutes. You look at the last game against Chicago, did have 20 points in that game. And so all in all, you know, a lot of his production is really predicated on him hitting an open 3 or 2. But all in all, like 12.5 points, not too difficult for him to get to. From there, the rest of the prop bets that I'm kind of seeing probably a little bit too thin. We got Giannis. We got a slight discrepancy between PrizePicks and Underdog. All in all, probably correct to be in the middle, as we can see based off of the average sportsbook line being about 26.7 or so. So we are getting some props for the Spurs versus Rockets game. So let's talk about that. Looking at the game total, about 24.5 is the over and under. The point total, the point spread is an 8-point spread. So there is concern there about the game potentially blowing out. Looking at the injuries, not too many significant injuries in terms of like who would really change this game. And so that's probably why we're getting some props. So we should get a good idea of maybe which players to be on. So we'll go ahead and start out with Houston. And so for Houston right now, the best prop bet that we are currently getting is going to be Sengun for over 10.5 rebound. And to me, that is a pretty darn good bet that we are getting simply due to the matchup with the Spurs. The Spurs are a team in which you do want to attack bigs against. Now, the concern would obviously be that this game has the potential to be a blowout. Don't love that. Now, these two teams did meet earlier on this season at the beginning of the season. I don't know how much we can take away from that, but he did have 14 rebounds in that game, really just absolutely went off, did foul out in that game as well, played 41 minutes, so that game might have been a OT game, but all in all, we do know that we want to attack bigs against the Spurs, so all in all, that is probably a prop bet that I could see getting actually potentially bumped throughout the day tomorrow. And that's also probably why PrizePicks is not giving us any lines for that. It's seemingly a pretty good one, but you're more or less betting on the game staying close. Don't really want to touch 3-pointers made for him. Fred VanVleet under 4.5 rebounds, again, probably a little bit too thin. With everyone back kind of healthy for Houston, I'm very curious as to Jabari Smith, kind of what his role has been, because the minutes have been a little bit sporadic now. If we could bank on him getting 30 plus minutes in every single game, I'd be loving him as a bet, especially rebounds wise, going against the Spurs. And all in all, this number probably does feel a little bit too low for me. Maybe you could do points, rebounds, and assists at 23.5, but Jabari Smith Jr. as a whole should have a good, or I should say a decent game against the Spurs. I don't mind the 10.5 rebounds with about a 52.3% chance to hit. He has been getting some assists. He has been getting rebounds. And as long as those minutes are there going against the Spurs, I do like that. Last game against the Spurs, 9 rebounds in that game. We have seen he's been a little bit more productive wise. So maybe just a little bit more of some stacking opportunities there. Let's actually take a peek at the Spurs, seeing if we're getting any good prop bets there. Keldon Johnson over 3.5 assist, 54 or 53.6% chance for that one to hit. On the season, he does average 4.1 assists. Again, we look at the last game against Houston, probably not the best indication, but 4 assists in that game. All in all, I would feel like this team chemistry has gotten a little bit better as the season has progressed. All in all, he is getting heavy minutes, so not terrible. Like again, I do think we have some slight game stacking opportunities in this game. You could roll with that. 1B for over rebounds and assists at 12.5, seemingly an okay bet. The average sportsbook line is actually starting to favor the over at 12.75, 52% for that. And so that's why this is at 53 or so percent. So not a terrible one there. And then from there, the lines that we were getting probably a little bit too thin. Do want to call this out though. For Keldon Johnson for points, Underdog has it set at 15.5. PrizePicks has it set at 16.5. I would probably say, like, if we are betting on this game staying close, the 15.5 points is probably a little bit too low for Keldon Johnson. That would be a prop bet that I would like the over there on Underdog, whereas PrizePicks, it's probably the correct line. Again, though, we are seeing some slight game stacking opportunities here, but let's go ahead and move on into the next game. And let's see here. We got some more coming in. Memphis, we'll take a peek at that. So yeah, we have Memphis versus Dallas here, guys. 227 is going to be the over and under, looking at a 2.5 point spread. So kind of nice there. Injuries wise, I'm guessing we're not having, well, I guess Memphis is still kind of banged up. Heck, Dallas, we know Kyrie Irving's out. Grant Williams, a game time decision. So I'm a little bit shocked that we are getting some props for this. It might be limited. I'm sure for Dallas, we're probably just getting Luka props, but we'll take a peek. Now we are getting some more. So this is very interesting. So with Kyrie off the court, I just want to go over Luka's production, and you guys can kind of decide which prop bet if you like any of them. I will show you guys point rebounds and assists. I have that highlighted. So that's at 54.5. His production, though, with Kyrie off the court is a 36% usage rate, averages 57.4 fantasy points per 36, 30 real life points, 9.2 rebounds. So right there, he's about 39 for points and rebounds, and then averages about 10 assists. So these numbers might be a little bit too high. I'm wondering if it's a matchup thing. Are they expecting Luka to have a easier game given the matchup, or maybe for him to get more than 36 minutes? Probably that. You know, you give him a few more minutes. That does make sense. All in all, though, those lines that we're getting on him are probably a little bit too thin. I am curious, though, with Grant Williams potentially off the court, does that help Derek Jones or anyone else out? Like, so we'll take a peek at that. Or Derek Lively, for instance. And not really Lively, like his minutes don't go up. So we're getting some props for Lively. I don't know if we would want to touch those at all. Like 2 blocks. Yeah. Honestly, for him to have 2 blocks and like 0.5 steals, the line that we're going to get for him fantasy score is probably going to be too low, especially when his points and rebounds is at 15.5. He's not someone that's going to get really any assists. So let's just do the math there. Like, I don't know, 2 blocks and steals, that's 6 points right there. This should be like 22 or so. So if his fantasy score is below like 23, really, I'm probably fine betting the over there for Derek Lively. For Derek Jones, I would say the prop bets that we're getting on him are correct as well. All in all, right now, we don't know for sure if Grant Williams is going to play or not. With that, I don't know if I want to chase any of those. Let's say peek at Memphis. So Memphis, Bismack Biyombo for under 2 assists is one that's really popping up. We can see, though, that the projected or the average sportsbook line actually does like the over at 1.5. All in all, that one is probably going to be a push there on Underdog. And you guys can see we're not getting any prop bets for these two teams for PrizePicks. Again, that's why I'm using more Underdog right now. Jaren Jackson, 6.5 rebounds. That seems pretty low, right? Going against Dallas as well. Like, that's a team, bigs wise, you typically like to attack. Only 29 minutes in the last game. That's a little bit concerning. But you look at the last game against Dallas, 14 minutes in that game, 5 fouls. That is the issue with Jaren Jackson Jr. He is just a foul machine. You can't really bank on him getting minutes. And so for me, it's tough to really go in on Jaren Jackson Jr. and then also go in on Bismack Biyombo. To me, it's like one or the other with them still being banged up. And what I find interesting is Tillman came back. He's not really playing too many minutes just yet. That could be something that changes. He would also benefit if Jaren Jackson Jr. gets into foul trouble. We'll take a peek at the Desmond Bane props that we were getting. So he has been someone that has been playing better. We look at that massive game that he had against Dallas last time out. That is probably something that happens again. We can see for him, though, the best prop bet that we are getting is rebounds and assists at 10.5. That's probably a little bit too thin for me. I'm actually curious. His points at 26.5, that's probably correct. Maybe points, rebounds, and assists, 37.5. Again, probably correct. We look at the last game, maybe not that much of an edge there, but all in all, if this game stays close, I think he's going to be the reason as to why he needs to play well. And then we have one more game here on the docket, guys. Brooklyn versus the Kings. That's going to be a 5-point spread. 234.4 is going to be the over and under. And so we'll go ahead and start with Brooklyn. I apologize. I realized I didn't switch there. Graphic might have been a little bit bad on the last game breakdown. But looking at it for Brooklyn, Mikal Bridges for under 5.5 rebounds, definitely interesting. Nick Claxton at 8.5 rebounds, also interesting. Let's just touch on really all the Brooklyn Nets players because they are difficult to figure out simply because they are pretty healthy now. So we see this. Ben Simmons is still out. Lonnie Walker is still out, but Cam Thomas is back. That's good. But this game is one that should stay close. And if it does, like, I really do like Nick Claxton to get over his rebounds. I mean, he's been crushing unlimited minutes. And so really we want this game to stay close. If it does, his rebounds at 8.5 to me seems too low. And let's actually take a peek at Mikal Bridges. His rebounds line is probably correct. But all in all, at 5.5, I could actually see betting the under there. We can see really with Nick Claxton back, I think that's a decent correlation. We have seen that his rebounds have been down a little bit. That there could be something there. Mids have been pretty heavy for Mikal Bridges. All in all, I think there's a good chance that he gets to 5.5, but all in all, I could see why, the under would be favored there. So those are two of my favorite ones. I do think that there is some correlation there. Claxton is getting his over rebounds. Mikal Bridges might not get his over rebounds. And then Spencer Dinwiddie, I just don't want to touch. It seems too hit or miss with him. Mikal Bridges at 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists to me seems too low. And I also want to talk about Nick Claxton at 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Now, last game for Nick Claxton, that line against Washington, it started out at 23 for points, rebounds, and assists, and it just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. It was crazy. We have seen that a little bit with the Brooklyn Nets, where Vegas and thus PrizePicks and Underdog, they're not going to know how to properly gauge Brooklyn, and we're not going to either. The point I want to bring up is because of that, we could be potentially getting some massive edges in the line. And so it wouldn't be shocking to see that line increase for Nick Claxton as well. We can see in the last game against Atlanta, 1 for 5, his points were down. Do you expect that to continue? Probably not. If he makes a couple more buckets there, 3 for 5, that's 8 points total, 8 assists, and then 10 rebounds. We probably need a little bit more points out of him, but all in all, you could see why maybe the 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists could be a little bit too low. Again, I think the better of the two bets is going to be doing the rebound. That seems the safe. And then let's look at the Kings. All right, so the Kings, we got another one that's basically being valued as a push for Malik Monk. Turnovers, don't need to touch that, I don't think. Keegan Murray, rebounds and assists, 6.5. Really, what I'm seeing here right now for the Kings, I don't really like any of those prop bets. So let's go ahead and give you guys a bet of the day slip for NBA. Again, this is going to be updating throughout the day. We're going to get more props. This is going to change, but this gives you guys a great starting point. All right, so looking at the bet of the day here for Underdog, I will say right away as well for PrizePicks, if you guys want to run out part of this slip, you could do that. What I would say is that for PrizePicks, it's going to be Mikal Bridges for lower than 5.5 rebounds, and then Keldon Johnson for over, I think it was 3.5 assists. Those are the two best bets that we have right now. I will say Jalen Green, his points on PrizePicks is set at 21.5, and that's going to be the case with these 3 prop bets right here that I like. Is that Underdog is a little bit lower than PrizePicks, at least by a point, and the average sportsbook line is favoring the over, but it's favoring the over at, like, for Brook Lopez, for instance, it's at like 12.78, and it's still favoring the over there at 12.78 for the average line. And so I think that these are going to be ones that get bumped, hopefully not too soon for you guys, because I think these are going to be some pretty good edges. Again, if you guys haven't used Underdog and you want to play some of these bets, I'm not telling you guys to do so. By all means, your bankroll and how you guys manage it is always up to you. But if you guys are interested in joining Underdog, make sure to just use the promo code 905. That's going to kick back some money my way. That is going to be all for today's video, though, guys. If you guys want access to the 905sports.com PrizePicks and Underdog cheat sheet, click the link in the description below, 905sports.com, available for just $10 a month. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. Do appreciate that. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.